Hey YouTube, this is Zach with Achilles Financial, and today I want to be talking about CFAC, CFAC, and they're another SPAC that is trading on the NASDAQ, and they are interested in looking at a Lidar company, AI, so AEYE, and we'll look at their website and their investor presentation here momentarily, but I just want to highlight that this is, again, a huge industry. Self-driving, or at least autonomous driving, is something that is expected to be huge in the future, and they are a company that's been around for a while. One of the key reasons I think their stock dropped today is because, from a fundamental perspective, the company is looking to be traded at a $2 billion valuation, which means that the SPAC deal is looking at right at 260 million. And as of right now, you can see that the market cap was 326 million, which is why if we look at the charts, you can see from a month-to-month basis, again, this company that was started relatively shortly, it went all the way up as high at one point in time. I think we may have to go a little bit farther back in this example. But I mean, this traded like right at the open to an all-time high of 1450. And you've seen it trade in a decent range. So it's dropped down to $11. And I think the story on this company is actually a little bit better than you could anticipate, despite the fact that a lot of people are kind of selling off at this point in time. Again, I think there's been some profit taking, especially if you were one of the original investors getting in at under $14 a share. If you were able to sell at that price, I think that's a big deal. So let's talk about the company and what they have to offer. So this is the company. I want to highlight that this is their website. Again, you can kind of see some of the movement that they're doing, some of the different creation. As someone who is, once again, not an expert in the Lidar world, the idea behind it is they are utilizing laser-based technology to determine where and how far and how soon you'll reach from a driving perspective. So again, kind of like radar, but they're using light, thus the Lidar. So this is a company that's pretty cool in terms of what they have the capability of doing. One of the key things I would highlight is they've got some huge investors that are backing the company, which is what makes it exciting for me. As you can see, here's an example of the car. You can see they've got their LiDAR technology here along the top. Again, this is something, or where it's going to be. I don't know what it'll look like going forward. I don't think that has been completed yet. I wanted to leave it on this screen before we dive into the presentation. The key partners that I was incredibly impressed by, Continental is a huge manufacturer, and this is someone who I anticipate is willing, or they are willing to sell the AI technology, which is a huge deal. You also see on here we've got LG Electronics as well as Subaru. So I think that that's two companies that are very well known and have the capability to deploy the capital, more so Subaru. But one thing also, you probably can't see this, but this is GM. And GM has committed to introducing $5 billion over the next few years into their autonomous driving and EV segments. And I think that this may be one of the companies they could partner with to get there. So without further ado, I'll showcase the investor relations page to show you I'm going to this investor presentation right here. So let's talk about it. So this is the AI investor presentation. One thing that I would highlight just from the starting point of this company compared to a number of the other investor presentations we've looked at is this is not a good PowerPoint. I'm just going to say this right from the get-go so I don't say it every single slide. But I was very unimpressed for a company going public at a $2 billion valuation to make a pretty poor PowerPoint in my opinion, but that may just be nitpicky and it probably doesn't matter to the overall valuation. But let's dive into the company and talk about some of the capabilities. Again, all of this includes forward-looking statements, and I am not a financial advisor. So that is a big deal because this is just my opinion. The leadership team on this group, they've got some big names here who have some pretty big experience. I haven't gone and looked up these individuals on LinkedIn, which is something that I'll normally do before these presentations, but I just thought it was important to note that, again, some of the companies these people have been with, The CEO, he is not a Lidar CEO, and I am happy about it. He's actually been heavily involved in a number of other publicly traded companies, and again, think high growth type of companies, and I like that. So again, they've got the capability to produce this technology. They have a lot of these people on their staff here, and I think that that's important because again, it gives them the capability to move forward rapidly, which in a company this size, they have very high growth targets, and I think that that's going to be important going forward. So again, just to highlight some of their partners, they've got some big deals in here, including, again, you see Intel, you see Subaru, you see Continental, LG, and then over here, even some government-based partners. So I think that's a big deal when we're talking about this capability. As always, when we're talking through the various tech for a lot of these companies, I would just want to highlight that this is not something that I'm super familiar with. I just understand it conceptually. And I think the company does a good job of, again, explaining kind of what it is identifying and what it is using. And it just showcases, again, some awards, but just some of the different ideas that they have that are going to make it more successful going forward. They really highlight the partner validation on a number of these slides. And I do think that's very important, because when you're looking at some of the capabilities of these companies, it all comes down to execution. And if you have people that are already trusted partners that people are willing to buy from, I think that that's a big deal, because you don't have to go out and actively search for your own business. You become a B2B business as opposed to a B2C, so business to business or business to consumer. They're also talking about this expectation. Again, a lot of these startups, 84% gross margins, 55% EBITDA sound awesome until you look at the 2026 number. That's a big deal because that's really far away. So again, even if there's a lot of opportunity here, they're saying they're going to, and we'll see down below, they're going from a $2 billion company to a $7 billion company. If you scale the stock at the same way, that's a long time for a company that isn't necessarily proven at this point in time. So again, significant market opportunity, because there is going to be a lot of companies that are looking for this type of technology. So right now here on the screen, you see some of the different targeting capabilities, which is pretty cool. Again, being able to say, hey, this is a motorcycle, this car is swerving, you've got deer, pedestrian, just from what I'm seeing on the screen. But imagine this type of technology in drones, in helicopters, in vehicles, trucks. That presents itself a very compelling case for why this market is so huge. And they go on to say some of that here again: traffic, trucking, mining, shuttles. There is so many capabilities, and that is why I think that there is the marketplace for this. Again, they've got their technology. If you are interested in this type of information, please feel free to come check on the website, check it out, see why there is an advantage to this, that, or the other. The big thing that I want to highlight is more so the financials that we'll find here down below. So again, we're going into the financial overview. These are some huge numbers that they are forecasting. So there are different technology platforms. The big one here is going to be ADAS. So this is, again, kind of some of the autonomous type of world. These are huge when you talk about the TAM being the total addressable market. They're saying that this is going to grow at an annual rate in the autonomous world. The CAGR is compounded annual growth rate of 43%. That is a huge deal. So I want to make sure that we're focusing on that number, because that applies to a lot of different companies. Again, this marketplace is coming from Ford, from GM, from Tesla, from these other car manufacturers. So I think that it's important to recognize, and this is something that I haven't been looking at as much, is the industrial side of this. I mean, railways, I think that this is huge. Mining, aerospace, defense, all of this is things that I generally don't think of when I think of LiDAR technology. So it's pretty cool to see that capability thrown in here. Even at the lower percentage, a $17 billion market is a huge deal. Again, this is over 10 years though, and that's a huge deal as well. So kind of let's continue looking through this. Let's look at the revenue opportunities. So this is in millions of dollars. So they're saying at the end of this year, they're expecting to have $4 million in revenue. Again, a lot of this money is expected to really start popping off in 2024 when their ADAS product is, or their licensing revenue starts then. That being said, $4 million, and then they're expected to grow to $13 million next year, is a lot for saying that you're going to be worth $2 billion. So keep that in mind, just because I want to highlight some of the companies we've been looking at. We're looking at 40x, 50x, 60x sales. So for this company to be trading and saying that they're worth $2 billion, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to offer that price point. So keep that in mind, because that's a big deal. I just want to highlight that this is revenue. So interesting to check out, but again, you can see right here, yes, I like the fact that gross profit, 1 million, but then you look at the actual earnings, and you can see that they're expected over the next 3 years to basically burn through all of the money that they're raising. So keep in mind that they are looking to raise $250 million with some additional PIPE money later on. If you look at the numbers right here, we're immediately looking at getting rid of right at $230 million. So keep that in mind, really $225 million. Keep in mind that that's a lot of burn over 3 years for not a lot of revenue coming in the door. So again, this is the story that we can tell right here, 2024 to 2026. I don't know if that's what I want to get into, though, is these first 3 years. So the transaction details, this is the other thing I have a huge problem with a lot of these SPACs, and this is why you don't see this type of coverage at the macro level, like the Jim Cramers of the world and such, is if you look at these numbers, they're comparing 2026 values here on the left-hand side. So this is the company that we're looking at here. 2025, 2024, 2025, 2017, 2021. So none of these other companies are being compared to the same numbers. And I have a big issue with that because it just shows that the premium that this company is trying to trade at. So if we go down here below, you can talk about some of the compounding average growth rates. Yeah, 174 is a big deal, but we're not going to see any of that anytime in the near future. So this is just, again, some of the tech that we need to be looking at, some of the comparisons, but further evidence of this is you're seeing 21 to 2025, 25, 25, 25, 24. It's just not the same. And when you tell that type of story in the investor presentation, I do have some issues with that because, again, you're not comparing apples to apples. You're showing, hey, we don't think that at the same level we can compete with those companies. And you can further see that evidenced here where, again, you're looking at the valuation. It says they're being shown at a discount, but it actually looks like they're coming in at a premium compared to other companies. Again, these are all 2025 numbers. Let's put them up to 2026 numbers and see how they behave. So this is the expectation, again, from the transaction. They're saying they're going to be a $7.6 billion company in 2026. We'll see. Again, I don't like the $2 billion valuation today. And last but not least, let's look at this. Again, this is the page we looked at pretty routinely. This deal is going to cost $50 million. You can see that here on the left-hand side of your screen. And they're raising $230 million of the SPAC money. So that's from the money or the shares that are being issued right now. And the PIPE capital is what they can use later. But they also said in their first 3 years, they expect to burn $225 million. So I would be surprised if they don't do another equity option if this kind of comes to life. And they do have a enterprise value of right at that $2 billion. Right now, the stock is currently trading at a higher valuation than $2 billion. And that's only going to get you right at 10% of the company here in the SPAC public. And most of the company is staying with the issuers of shares, which if I am a owner and I own 5% of the company and all of a sudden my 5%, if we're valued at $2 billion, keep that in mind, that means my 5% is now worth $50 million. That sounds very, very good for me as an owner. Why would I hold on to $50 million without selling some of that money back or taking some of those profits? Again, these guys are not multi-millionaires right now. I'm sure they're doing very well for themselves, but they are not worth $50 million or more than that on a company that's only bringing in $4 million in revenue. And for that reason, I think that this is a huge cash grab. All that being said, if you buy in at the current share price of $11 and you're able to switch it for $15, that's a big win for you. I just personally am not going to be looking at this company because of this page right here and the exact representation I just told you. Is I think that this is a big cash grab. It's a company that's only bringing in $4 million. Will I trade it? I don't know. Haven't decided yet. I may do some long-term options for out of the money just because some of these other companies are doing pretty well in terms of the stock is continuing to go up. But right now, I just can't, in good faith, recommend a company that is, again, coming public, just in my opinion, so that the owners can make some money. So whether you like it or not, that's my opinion. So if you want to see any trades that we may be doing on this company, please drop a like down below and then check out the Discord in the description. But if you found this content helpful, please leave a like and subscribe, and let's continue to learn some more about AI. Thanks. Talk to you later.